And next, I want to welcome Julian Medina, who is the founder and executive director of the Exodus Transitional Community. He's going to facilitate a panel of program participants, one from Dannon and one from OIC, to talk about their experience in the program and to give their recommendations as well. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Kenneth Fells, who is now a certified patient care technician living in Birmingham, Alabama, and he's a program participant of Dannon. Come on up, Kenneth, and you can take a seat. And I'd also like to introduce Mr. Willard Bryant. He's the president of KB Property Maintenance, and he's also a board member of OIC of South Florida, as well as a former program participant. So if you'd like to come up as well, Mr. Bryant. Thank you. And I'll turn this over to Julio to facilitate.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I know this is the last panel, so we're going to keep everybody up and going and get the lunch. So just very, very interesting, real quickly, I just want to thank Fred Davey, Vice President at Union, for putting this together. I mean, it's amazing some of the work that's happening. Him, Brent, Kevin, who runs an outstanding program in Florida, have been ready for work, have been doing this for the last maybe 12, 13 years. So it's wonderful to always reconnect and continue to do the work. You know, we've heard the statistics, which is wonderful. I always love stats, I think. But I want to put something on the ground. I want to talk about this from the perspective and from the lens of people who've kind of been there, who I always believe are the experts, who I believe policy must meet the grassroots level of the work, that sometimes it's really gets hard to connect, and that no one is left behind as we think about best practices. With recidivism rates still looming as high as they are, we still have to look at the model. I think we still have to open up the trunk and say, and open up the hood of the car and say, wait a minute, there's some repairs that still have to happen. And who better to talk about some of those repairs than some brothers who've been there, understand it firsthand, and want to share some of that information with you today. So I want to just open with a question. And we've heard the panelists today, brothers, talk about case management and the significance of case management inside of prison. Was this something that you received while you were inside? And if so, you know, kind of, where do you think some of this should begin when we're thinking about reentry? I'll begin with you, brother.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for giving me an opportunity to share my story. I believe that pre-release reentry should begin immediately, even though I didn't have it. But pre-release reentry, it pretty much gives people the motivation to get out and, you know, do better for themselves so they can move forward in their life without having that burden on their shoulder of what they did in the past, and giving you actually a second chance to get out in the work field and make something of yourself, make something of your life, and, you know, show the society that you can be a better person.
Amen. Brother, same question to you?
Same question from
Same
me?
one, go with it.
Okay. I want to thank everybody as well for allowing me this opportunity to speak and ask some questions and get my input. I'm definitely not the smartest guy in this room, so don't ask me who is. I won't tell you.
Yes, sure.
But reentry, when should it start? In my walk, I believe it'll be, I'm going to piggyback off of what Mr. Kenneth just said, that it should start immediately because it'll help. It's like a trickle-down effect. It'll help everybody out in the end. I heard the young lady speak about the assessment process. So if it starts immediately, because there's so much stuff got to be covered, that wasn't even mentioned in an individual's daily walk. And the assessment is going to be necessary because it's going to be different tools and stuff or training that's going to be needed for different individuals. So I think immediately would be a good start, and it helps guide the individual path. It gives him goals, and, you know, it kind of like put his focus on what he should be thinking about while he do this time. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time he thinking about it, he learning the things in which he needs to be focused on and what he needs to be learning and preparing himself to re-enter society.
Come on, man.
So I think it should start immediately, right after you get that sentence.
Correct.
So at point of arrest, we're talking about reentry begins.
Correct.
At point of arrest.
Absolutely, it'll help everybody out because the money's going to come back into play, and then the programs that's trying to provide assistance, they ain't kicking that money out that much like that. You know what I'm saying? So if it starts immediately, it'll help everybody out. I think it would. So everybody need to be considered.
And it keep you in a focused mental state also, because when you're incarcerated or locked up, I think you lose focus of where you're supposed to be, and your mindset where it should be when you get out. So that plays a big part in people like our life. So
Wonderful.
that'll be perfect.
Wonderful.
And if I could just put one last thing with that,
Sure.
and I'm going to make that in reference to myself. I served 31 years in prison, 5 months and 2 days. But for the first 20, I wasted the time. So if I would have had had some type of, if I would have been paying attention, because I can't blame anybody but myself because we are responsible for our own decisions. But and I could have took the time back because Mr. Sanders just said something a minute ago that just jumped out at me. He said Department of Corrections. When I went in, it was Department of Rehabilitation. So it changed, and I didn't even realize the name had changed until something happened. But anyway, that's why I say it's important, because when I went in, it was like I just got off into prison, trying to stay alive and trying not to be taken advantage of, whatever. But I wasted a lot of years that could have been used, in a better way. So now I'm trying to catch up. I'm trying to learn all those things I should have been learned and stuff like that. So it's like it should have been started.
Thank you, brother. You want to share your walk, if you don't mind?
It was pretty tough in the beginning. I was abused as a child by my mother. I was always getting in trouble. I was stealing. My cousins, they used to have me smoking weed at 9 years old. I lost my grandmother, and that really made me frustrated throughout high school. When I got to high school, I made a name for myself. It was real terrible. Everybody just knew me as trouble, and when I come around, they think I'm finna steal something from them or something like that. And I wasn't really educated or smart, for real, but I did graduate high school. So I got into the program through a referral from my probation officer and a few other people I knew that was in the program. So during the program, I learned that I can be something other than an outdoorsman, a person that worked, cutting yards, doing outside stuff. They showed me I could, excel to the medical field, which I did. I'm actually a certified phlebotomist now.
Come on, bro.
That's right. And also during the program, I got shot. I was in the wrong place. I was still doing some of the wrong stuff, following the wrong crowd. I had got shot, but Mr. Keisha Alvis, one of my case managers, she called me every day. She made sure I was all right. She told me that I can come back and finish my training whenever I needed to, and I came back immediately on crutches. I came every day to the program, and Miss Talina Wiggins and Miss Dr. Kim Patton, they helped me get my reading up and my math. So I was basic skill deficient, but now I am math and reading proficient. So I would like to really thank the Dana Project for giving me an opportunity to shine my light.
As I want to make sure we have enough time, so I want to get to this question, because I think now you can help me and other nonprofit leaders kind of across the country when we think about, because we have people in the audience that look at and fund programs and design programs like the one you went through. What advice would you give them about what works? What advice would you give them about kind of the struggles? Because, we are unique where we're out and we're on a panel, but there's so many others that are still inside. There are so many others who are still at that first point of their incarceration where that consciousness still hasn't set in yet. What advice would we give to kind of the funders in the audience, our leaders in the audience, our supporters, around best practices. What's going to work?
What's gonna work?
Yeah, when you think about it, when you think about your own, when you were young, when you think about some of the challenges that we face, yeah, what do we think as returning citizens, just as involved? What do we think works? What are the supports that work?
Being genuine. If you're gonna offer some assistance,
Come on.
you got to be genuine, because you got to look at that particular group and what you offering that assistance to. Where they coming from? They coming from a spot where character assessments is all they do, because they're trying to stay alive. See, they're coming out of prison, so they got to deal with this type of stuff. So when they get out, like me, out of 31 years, I ain't had no skills, didn't think I had a shot, and I stumbled up on OIC, which was the best thing that could happen for me. They was genuine. So, after living like that for so long, you don't want to trust nobody. But when I went there, they totally disarmed me. I don't know if it was because he had those pretty case managers or what.
I was part of it.
But they did a job on me. So they totally disarmed me, man, because what I felt from them was they were genuine. They wasn't trying to get 8 hours out the way. They really wanted to help me.
Right.
So I was able to, disarm myself and allow them to help me. And it's something that I will forever be grateful for, and just being genuine, and everybody know how that process go. So that would be my.
Thank you.
That'll be my.
Thank you. And that discernment is crucial in building that trust.
Absolutely.
Because so many people, we don't want to take that for granted. I always. What you say just rings so true, because when we think about it, many of the men and women who've been in prison had different type of lives, so they can definitely, to stay away from the police, 20 hours of the day to get back home to do. There's this navigational tool of discernment that we know. Don't say you love me and you don't. Don't say you're here to help me and you don't. So I want to just highlight what you said, brother, and pass and ask you the same question as well.
Well, I want to say that they motivated me. Just make sure that you give the people what they need. Don't take the cookie cutter approach. We need to be individualized, because we are different. Everybody needs different training, because we don't have the same mindset. We don't come into the programs with the same mindset. Some people are coming there for different things. They're probably coming in to use the program for different reasons. But me, I came in the program for help, because I really needed help. I felt like my family didn't love me, but the Dana Project, they showed me that they loved me. They really cared for me. So I would like to just say that if you're gonna fund programs like this, make sure you're hiring people that care for their participants.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm a break tradition, because I know we got like 2 minutes left or something. So let me break the tradition. I want to take a question from you, Mr. Sanchez, because I saw your hand up.
No, I just wanted to. My name is Robert Sanchez. I did 15 years. I was 18 years old in the Rockefeller drug laws in New York City, and something that, to me, and it's how do you quantify relationships, right? That's the difficult thing. And I think the successful programs are the ones that concentrate on relationships. And I think you mentioned it, Ms. Pruitt. And I think that's one of the essential, because like you, I came home, trusted nobody. I didn't even trust myself. I went from a GED to my first master's degree and didn't trust that. Didn't trust I had the knowledge, didn't trust that I had, and it took Mr. Davey, he was my mentor, my father figure. I said, I don't know what to do next. He said, you know what, why don't we figure this out together? I was 33, I'm 48 now, I'm what, 23 now? So what happened with me was, I I learned early on in my reentry life that relationships were the key. Relationships were going to where I was going to learn about career as opposed to a job. When I start thinking early in my life about a career, so thanks for that, because I think that's an important thing, and I'd like to hear more about that. And
Thank you.
how do you quantify that? How do you turn that into something that's tangible, right?
Wonderful. Thank you, brother. And we heard, I know we got like 2 minutes, and we heard, or a minute and a half now, right, Vanessa? Okay, and we've heard from the experts, and I think what we're hearing is kind of what the research is telling us, right? There's an individualized approach. There's a trusting relationship. There's validation that's happening during each stage of that trusting relationship. And you hear what the best practices are. But as we close, I just would love for you to kind of touch on, if there was one specific thing that we believe will change the tide of the 1.8 million Americans that are locked up now in this country, that have costs out of control. Different states range from 60,000 a year to, in New York City, Rikers Island is 200,000 a year, 208,000 to lock one person up for the year. The ratio with them and officers are 1 to 1. And I've heard, we could change the name, but the institution still remains the same if we don't change kind of what's happening on inside those institutions. So I don't want to discredit a name change, but there's something else that goes along with that name change. So as we speak to our colleagues, what's the one piece we can leave them with that will begin to change the tide? Because we're hearing about mass incarceration. Everybody seems excited. This is our moment. What can we tell them?
I would like to say, maybe if we promote programs like this, instead of promoting the terms, the rhymes, and we promote programs like this, maybe people will try to turn their life around and change before they make the decisions they make. If I would have heard about a program like this when I was 17, when I started doing my crimes and stuff, I probably would have never been shot. I had a friend actually die the other day due to the gang relations in our neighborhood. So maybe if he would have known about the program through promotions or like commercials and stuff, maybe he would have never got killed, or he wouldn't be involved with that kind of lifestyle. So just promote these kind of programs.
Wonderful. Brother, anything you want to add?
Yeah. I don't know if I can word it right.
That's all right, brother. You've been wording it right so far.
So the funders,
all right.
communication. The first thing they could do is give me the keys to the vault. Give me the keys to the vault. Now, I'm gonna go get a Bentley. And, y'all meet me. But now, on a serious note, the funding. It always boils back down to money. I deal with it every day, and I still ain't got no money. So, money. It just stops. It stops everything. If it ain't there, it just nothing to get done. Everybody just pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, and nothing getting done. I always go down to OIC because you talk about, they say a support group is very, very necessary on your reentry. But if that support group is not resourceful, it's really not a support group.
True.
You know what I'm saying? If that support group can't help me get this or help me get that, I'm still debating, is that classified as a support group? Now, when you talk about funding, when I came to OIC, I guess God was with me because they had a little money then. So they was able to provide some services that they don't no longer provide because they don't have the money to provide the services.
True.
So who gets shortchanged? Everybody gets shortchanged. A couple of staff members got to go. A couple of services get taken out of the play. So now that same service that we was offering to you ex-offenders that was able to just walk through the door and get some assistance, we can't do it because we ain't got the funding. So my advice would be stop choking them dollars. Let the organizations and the programs, man, do what they do. See, because at the end of the day, if you choking on them dollars, you just stopping. You ain't finna make no progress, man. Everybody,
Process.
see how you come up here and you say we're gonna do this conference, and then you're trying to cram 1,000 different things in this much time. So is that effectively utilizing everybody's time? I feel like you just wasted my time when I keep hearing them talking about, I just got up here and you talking about, a minute left. See, I done came way up here, you talking about a minute left. I'm saying, I could have did a phone conversation and did this and went to work and not left that day's pay on the table. So that's what I would say, because that's why I came up here, man. This is my way of giving back. So I come up here to hopefully influence the people that be to let that money go.
So I want to just thank our panelists for the insight. I think as National Reentry Week, it's something to really look at. And when you're talking about funding and services, it's so crucial. We're always trying to do more with less, and nonprofits on the ground are really suffering. So we definitely hope that as we look at the work and we look at the different design and we look at the model that was put together by ICF, that it's an opportunity for us to really look at the programs that are working, and let's fund those that are working, and those that aren't, we really got to get them up to speed as well. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here and reintroduce Fred. Thank you. Thank you.
Let me go.
Well, let's give all the panelists another round of applause. Really, really, very, very, very well done. Let's just run quickly through a set of recommendations so that we can keep that funding coming, keep influencing those here on the Hill and other places around the country that have responsibility for these types of programs. So your time's not wasted, and I hope they'll actually pay you for this day because this is actually work, good work, exactly the kind of work we should be doing. So for the recommendations. So the first one is that we should focus on resources, or focus resources on faith-based and community organization, employment-based reentry programs that are evidence-based practices to serve returning citizens and justice-involved youth. So simply put, focus on evidence-based programs because there's so little money, as our speaker just said, and we shouldn't waste it on things that are not effective. The second recommendation is that we support opportunities for faith-based and community organizations to develop formal relationships with prison facilities. And we heard that discussed on the panel about how really important that is. And I know when we were doing the Ready for Work program, we heard a lot from community-based and faith-based organizations about the need to actually get into prisons to work with people before they actually got out. The third recommendation is that we support leniency or relief from work and restitution payments and work release to support credential attainment for living wage in-demand occupations. And I think this is pretty self-evident. That we don't want sort of outdated obligations to prevent people from moving forward in these programs as well as they might. And then finally, that we invest in individual research on career pathway approaches and mentoring in the reentry context. We have a great deal more to learn about how our communities and service providers can achieve stronger and more reliable self-sufficiency outcomes for returning citizens. Further research on pathways and approaches to pathways and mentoring in the reentry context could provide valuable information for the next generation of employment-based programs. So we just need more on what makes for the best career pathways and what makes for good mentoring. I think what gave rise to this was I think when you looked at some of these programs, you saw that some did or did not have mentoring components, but mentoring seems to have not made the kind of difference that we thought it might make in people's recidivism rates and other indices about their ability for success. We think mentoring is fundamentally important. Robert Sanchez talked about the way in which we've had a relationship. I met him when he was still on the inside. I was at the Ford Foundation funding that master levels program that he talked about, and I went up to meet the class, and Robert was one of those people that didn't let go. He would start calling me at home. They say, this is a Sing Sing Correctional Facility. Robert Sanchez calling, will you accept the charges? And I think for about 2 years I accepted those charges, and then he got out, and we have had this 15-year mentoring relationship, friendship actually. But the evidence is not there, as I'm understanding, to show that these mentoring programs and mentoring actually makes a difference. So we need to do more in that area and more on what makes for effective career approaches for reentry as well. With that, I want to just acknowledge two more people. Joey Longley, who's a media director at Union and who worked with us to help put this together, Joey. And is Derek still here? The Reverend Dr. Derek Harkins. Derek, why don't you both stand so people can see you? Derek is the Senior Vice President for Public Programs. Union has been doing a series of programs on Capitol Hill to try to advance public policy in the areas where people who live at the margins have the greatest need. So we've talked about criminal justice reform. We here for reentry. We've talked about the role of federal and faith institutions, federal organizations and faith institutions when it comes to the LGBTQ community and the ways in which there needs to be full involvement there. So it's our intent to look at what we consider to be people who have been relegated to the margins, look at the role that faith has to play in making their lives better, and the way in which faith does that in the public square. Bring faith to the public square with a voice about inclusion and compassion, as opposed to some of the other things we've been hearing in the world today. So thank you all. We got a lot of work to do. Thanks to Brent, thanks to Vanessa, thanks to our partner, ICF, and all the others who participate here today. Thank you.